Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking on a pretty universal nemesis, chronic back pain. And we're digging into a really rigorous, structured clinical protocol we found in the guides from Sundried.
Yeah, and the promise here isn't just a list of random stretches.
Right, it's a targeted, equipment-free path to building permanent spinal strength. And you can do it right in your living room.
And that kind of structured approach is just so desperately needed. I mean, if you look at the clinical data, low back pain, LBP, it's not just common. It is the single leading cause of disability worldwide.
Wow, worldwide.
It's a global epidemic, really, and it's mostly driven by modern life. We're sitting way too much, and that leads to this cumulative failure of what we call the posterior chain.
Okay, so when you say posterior chain failure, you're talking about that whole system of muscles up the back of the body.
Yeah.
Hamstrings, glutes, all of that.
Exactly that, the entire chain. And when those movers and stabilizers start to atrophy or, they lose their neural drive, the brain just stops talking to them effectively. The whole burden shifts.
And it shifts destructively.
That's the word. Instead of your muscles taking the load, it goes to passive things like your spinal discs and your ligaments.
Yeah.
And that's when the chronic pain really begins.
So, okay, our mission today is pretty ambitious then. We're going to dive into the biomechanics of the spine and pull out the exact equipment-free things you need to do to build a resilient, pain-free back. We want to move from just managing pain to building real strength.
A proactive approach.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. The first thing that really stands out in the sources is this necessary shift in thinking. You have to stop seeing your back as just one big muscle.
Right. It's a complex, multi-layered system. It needs two very different types of support working together. You've got your global movers for big force, and then your local stabilizers, which are all about the tiny details.
Segmental integrity.
And to understand the movers, let's start with the latissimus dorsi. It's the widest muscle in the body.
And it acts as a bridge, right? It connects everything.
It's a crucial architectural bridge. It connects your arms to your spine and your pelvis. And clinically, that's huge because if your lats are tight and they get tight from typing, driving,
Everything we do all day.
Exactly. That tightness can actually pull your lumbar spine into a deep arch, what we call lordosis. The pain is in your low back, but the cause might be all the way up in your armpit.
Then you got the erector spinae, those big pillars right along the spine. They look like pure power muscles.
They are critical, but how they're built tells us how we should train them. The Sundried sources point out they have a very high percentage of slow twitch type I fibers.
Wait, so they're built more like marathon runners, not sprinters.
Precisely. They're designed for endurance postural holding. Think isometric holds, just maintaining a position for hours. Their whole purpose is to keep you upright all day long.
So training them with just big explosive lifts is kind of missing the point.
You're missing their main biological job. Their real resilience comes from slow, controlled work.
Okay, so let's go deeper to the local stabilizers. Because the sources say this is where the permanent change really happens. We have to talk about the multifidus.
Ah, yes. The segmental guardian.
Or the Velcro of the spine. I like that one.
It's a perfect analogy. It connects just a few vertebrae at a time, providing that microstability. But here's the depressing clinical insight. This is often the first muscle to waste away after a single episode of back pain.
The first one.
The first, and this is the critical part, it does not spontaneously recover. It doesn't just wake up on its own.
So hold on. If I had a bad tweak in my back 10 years ago, you're saying it's possible that this vital little muscle is basically still asleep.
That is exactly what the research shows. You have to target it specifically with low-load, high-precision exercises. The bird dog is the classic example. You're just trying to reconnect that mind-muscle pathway. It's an activation problem first.
And what about the side stabilizers, the quadratus lumborum, the QL?
The QL is famous for being that source of deep, nagging low back pain. But here's the twist from the sources. The QL is often an innocent victim.
How so?
Its job is to stop your pelvis from dropping sideways when you walk. But if your main hip stabilizers, the glutes, are weak, the QL has to go into overdrive to keep you stable. It gets tight and painful, but the root cause is weak glutes.
So we've got the movers and the stabilizers. But for it all to work, we need to redefine the core itself. It's not the six-pack.
The six-pack is just the wrapping paper. The core is a 360-degree pressure cylinder. Think of a soda can. The diaphragm is the roof, pelvic floor is the floor, your abs are the walls, and the multifidus and erectors are the back.
And that cylinder shape is what gives you stability.
Yes. Because real stability, especially when you lift something, relies on increasing intra-abdominal pressure, or IAP. You brace everything at once and your torso becomes this rigid protective structure. It's why you instinctively tighten your abs when you pick up a heavy box.
Okay, before we get to the exercises, which I know everyone is waiting for, we have to talk about safety. The sun-dried protocol is huge on this. Pain is not a weakness leaving the body here.
Not at all. It's a signal. It's a neurological output trying to protect tissue. You have to listen to it.
And there are some very clear red flags that mean you stop everything and see a doctor immediately.
Absolutely. The most serious is Pauta equina syndrome. That's loss of bowel or bladder control combined with what they call saddle anesthesia, numbness in your groin or inner thighs.
You also have to watch for any progressive neurological problems,
Yeah.
like numbness that starts in one spot and begins to spread, or developing foot drop where you can't lift your toes when you walk.
And the last big one is non-mechanical pain. If the pain is constant, it doesn't matter if you're sitting, standing, or lying perfectly still. If it never changes, it could be an organ issue, not a muscle or bone one.
That is a very sobering list. It really shows you have to be smart about this. And that leads to understanding the type of pain you have, because not all back pain is the same, right?
Not at all. You have to know your contraindications. For example, if you're flexion intolerant, which often points to a posterior disc issue, your back just hates bending forward.
So for that person, toe touches, sit-ups, crunches, all of that is out.
All out. Your go-to exercises are extension-based, like a gentle cobra pose, or just walking and focusing on a neutral spine.
And the opposite would be extension intolerance.
Right, often seen in things like spinal stenosis. Your back hates leaning back because it closes down the space for the nerves. So for you, the cobra or the Superman exercise is a bad idea. You need flexion-based movements like a child's pose to open things up.
This brings us to a huge point of controversy then. The Superman exercise. Everyone does it.
Everyone does it, and it does recruit the whole posterior chain. But, and this is a big but, leading researchers like Stuart McGill have shown it can generate up to 6,000 newtons of compressive force on the spine.
6,000 newtons. What does that even mean in real terms?
It's roughly like having the entire weight of a small car pressing down on your lowest few vertebrae. So the clinical verdict is pretty clear. Superman is a strength exercise for a healthy, resilient back. It is not a day one rehab exercise.
So what's the alternative?
The bird dog. It's the gold standard. It hits the same muscles, but cuts that compressive load by about half. It's just so much safer to start with.
Okay, that makes total sense. You have to earn the right to do the more advanced moves. So let's get into the home protocol from the sun-dried guides. 3 phases: mobility, stability, and then strength.
And the core principle is simple. You must stabilize before you load.
Phase 1, mobility and activation, waking everything up. We start with the cat-cow.
And the nuance here is crucial. Don't just move your back as one solid block. The cue is to try and move one vertebra at a time. You're trying to floss the nerves and restore that segmental movement.
And after that, the glute bridge, to wake up those glutes we talked about.
Yes, the body's primary shock absorbers. But the common mistake is trying to go too high. People arch their low back to get more height, which just puts the strain right back where you don't want it.
So the correction is?
Just stop when your body forms a straight line from your knees through your hips to your shoulders. The goal is hip extension, not lumbar hyperextension.
Got it. Okay, phase 2 is core stabilization, building the shield. This is where we see the big 3 exercises.
Yep, the big 3 are validated to give you maximum muscle activation with minimum spinal load. And first up is the one we just mentioned, the bird dog.
The goal here is anti-rotation, right?
Pure anti-rotation. You're trying to keep your torso perfectly still. The best cue is to imagine you have a full glass of water balanced on your low back. Don't spill a drop.
Yeah.
And reach for the walls to lengthen your body, not up at the ceiling, which encourages that arch.
Then we have the side plank.
The side plank directly targets the QL and the obliques with very little compression. This is what builds that lateral stability you need just for walking or carrying groceries without your pelvis dropping all over the place.
And the third of the big 3 is the dead bug.
A fantastic back protection drill. It teaches your body to keep the core stable while your limbs are moving. The absolute key cue is this. Your lower back must stay glued to the floor the entire time.
What happens if it starts to arch?
If your back arches off the floor, your deep core has failed. You've gone too far. You need to shorten the range of motion until you can keep it locked down.
Okay, so once that stability is locked in, we can move to phase 3. Strength development, still with no equipment. The sources really emphasize the inverted row.
Or a table row, or a bedsheet row. It's the key horizontal pulling movement. It's essential to fight that modern rounded shoulder posture. You can do it under a sturdy dining table or by using a knotted bedsheet over a closed door.
Next up, the bodyweight good morning. This is all about learning the hip hinge.
Mastering the hip hinge is maybe the most important safety lesson in the whole thing. It teaches your brain the difference between a hinge, where your hips go back, and a squat, where your hips go down.
What's the best key for that?
Imagine you're trying to close a car door with your butt. You have to push your hips straight back. The spine stays neutral. This is how you safely lift anything from the floor for the rest of your life.
And finally, for strength, the prone YTW series.
This targets the small scapular stabilizers, especially the lower traps, which are often dormant. But there's a crucial detail almost everyone misses. Your thumbs must point up to the ceiling.
Why is it so important?
That external rotation of the shoulder opens up the joint space. It allows you to engage the right muscles and helps you avoid shoulder impingement.
So we have the exercises. But how do you actually get stronger at home without weights? How do you apply progressive overload?
The sun-dried guides give us 3 great methods. First is increasing time under tension, or TUT. So for that inverted row, instead of just pulling up and dropping down, take 3 or 4 full seconds to lower your body. That slow negative creates a lot of strength.
Second is using mechanical disadvantage.
Right. You make the exercise harder by changing the leverage. You move from a 2-legged glute bridge, which becomes easy, to a much harder single-leg glute bridge.
And third, increase density.
Do the same amount of work in less time. Just shorten your rest periods between sets. It boosts your endurance and challenges the muscles in a new way.
And what about common mistakes? We have to troubleshoot form.
For any pulling movement, the biggest mistake is shrugging. People use their neck. The cue is always shoulders in your back pockets. Actively pull them down and back.
What about neck position in general?
During any exercise on your stomach, like the YTW or even the bird dog, people tend to crank their neck up to look forward. You have to fight that. The cue is pack the neck and look straight down at the floor. Keep the spine neutral from your tailbone to your skull.
Okay, let's talk about long-term maintenance. How do you keep this up?
Ergonomics is key. The sources have a great line, the best posture is the next posture. The real danger is staying in any one position for too long. So just move. Change position every 30 minutes.
And for consistency, the idea of habit stacking comes up.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Do your cat-cows while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. If you are really pushed for time, just focus on the big 3, the bird dog, side plank, and dead bug. You can get a massive stability benefit in under 10 minutes.
So we've really come full circle here. Building a strong back is a lifestyle change. It moves from that deep neural activation of the multifidus all the way up to building real strength in the lats. And you have all the tools, gravity in your own body right at home.
So what does this all really mean? We've laid out the physical plan, but the mental game here is just as important. Chronic back pain leads to something called kinesiophobia.
A fear of movement.
Exactly. Your nervous system becomes hypersensitive and terrified of any movement because it associates it with pain. This whole program is designed as graded exposure. It's about slowly and safely teaching your nervous system that controlled mindful movement is actually healing.
And that leads right into our final provocative thought for today. For long-term resilience, you have to learn to tell the difference between hurt and harm.
That is the key distinction. Hurt is that acceptable muscle discomfort you feel from using sensitive tissues. It's the feeling of activation. Harm is that sharp, piercing, protective pain that signals potential tissue damage.
So the ultimate goal isn't just becoming pain-free. It's about retraining your nervous system to understand that precise, mindful movement is safe. That distinction, knowing the difference between hurt and harm, that's the final piece of armor you build around your architectural spine.